What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with your Gups Corner Cup preview for the 3M Classic. But before we get to that, let's go back and look at the carnage last week from the Rocket Mortgage, an event where no one had the winner in their lineup because he was not offered on DraftKings. Nate Lashley did not make the cut on DraftKings. He got into the field too late. So no one in the field had him. We did indeed finish outside the cut line here because we had 3 players miss the cut. The guys that we spent up on, specifically DJ, misses the cut, takes 38% of the field with him. Matt Wolf misses the cut at 10%, and Sung Kang misses the cut at 17.2%. That is pretty disastrous. We did actually do better. So our 3, we kind of got the bottom of the board right, or the lower owned guys we got right. Sepp Straka goes out and finishes T11. Great tournament for him at 11% owned. Andrew Landry, 1.5% owned, made the cut, which is probably the most we could have asked for him. T59, he had another really good Friday, but again, his issue is 4 rounds. Kevin Kisner gets off to a hot start, doesn't keep it up, but finishes T46, 7.5%. It's really just a carnage of a week. The winning lineup, I think, still had. I mean, there were lineups in the top 10 that had like 1 or 2 guys miss the cut, and if you had a 6 of 6, no matter what it was, you were basically going to have a top 10 lineup. Our buddy Davis Maddock, he had a 6 of 6, I believe. And didn't have anybody finish the tournament better than 21st, and he had the 6th best lineup. So that right there illustrates the importance and how beneficial it was to get all 6 through in a week where there was just so much carnage. He avoided DJ, he avoided some of the higher owned guys. Even the winner had DJ in his lineup, the missed cut there, but he followed it up with Doc Redman. And again, really only one guy in the top 10 outside. Doc Redman was the only guy in the top 10. So a really interesting week, a week where, what am I trying to say here? Like it was like the optimal lineup was so low. A bunch of guys in the 6Ks came through. So I want to move through this quickly because I'm excited to talk about this week's lineup. We are now in 77th. There's, I believe, 5 weeks left before we start the playoffs. I think we were in 72nd last week, so we only dropped 5 spots. 5 weeks to really solidify ourselves in the playoffs, which we're well within right now, but trying to make sure we get into some of the later rounds. So where are we going this week? And this probably needs a video of its own, but I tweeted this out a couple of days ago, and the response that I got infuriated me, excited me. I don't know how else to describe it. But I was talking a little bit about optimizers, and you guys know, if you follow along, like I don't always use an optimizer because I don't like the way that they optimize. I don't like that you're limited to only doing it by fantasy points. So one of the things that I mentioned, and it's kind of a whole nother topic on whether the stats are good or not, but here's what I did for this week. I have access to this optimizer. It is a custom optimizer that a friend of mine built for me, and it is very, very simple and very, very flexible, which is exactly what I love it for. I can put anything I want into this optimizer and have it give me the best guys under 50K. So I can optimize by any specific stat. If I think it's a Bombers week, I'll optimize by driving distance. Give me the 6 guys with the largest sum of driving distance under 50,000. If I think it's a putting week, strokes gained putting, I can put anything I want in here because it's just a simple copy and paste, which is super, super helpful. So what I've done, and I'm very interested to hear your opinion on this, is I'm trying to find a good way to optimize, or a better way to optimize. So what I've done for this week is a couple of things. I created a calculation that is a player's long-term strokes gained tee to green. Okay, so a player's long-term strokes gained tee to green. Then the difference between that number and the player's short-term putting difference. Let me explain. Each player has a baseline for strokes gained putting for 2019. Let's just say a neutral putter, 0.00. If in the last 30 or 45 days, whatever my short term is, I've lost 1 stroke per putting per round, my difference is -1 stroke. So I'm taking your long-term strokes gained tee to green, taking the difference from that number and your short-term strokes gained putting difference. Okay, that so far right there spits out a number. And the point being, I'm trying to find consistently good players long-term, so tee to green, and then players who are underperforming putting-wise at the moment. But their baseline, they're usually better than this. The thought process is as follows. Take tee to green, which is one of the more consistent, predictable type of strokes gained stats. And then take that long term and then look short term at one of the most volatile stats, which is putting. And find guys that are putting below what we would expect them to. So the implication is that they have room to get back to their normal baseline. So someone's baseline still might be a negative putter, but if they're like really negative, there is room for improvement. There might be guys that usually gain strokes that are losing strokes putting. So my hopes are to find the players who have the most room for improvement, especially on the green, since that is the most volatile statistic. Okay, so that's like part 1. That gives me a number. Then I take projected ownership and weigh that into it as well. So for example, just round numbers. If 2 players come out with that tee to green and putting score, if both of them come out the same, and one of them is projected to be 25% owned and the other is projected to be 5% owned, I want the 5% guy, obviously. It would just be like if you had projections where 2 guys were projected at 80 DraftKings points, one is 25% owned and one is 5% owned, you would take the 5% guy, okay? If that's the way you want to do this. So I then included in the calculation basically a weight around how highly owned someone would be. So the higher owned you were, you got a little bit of a negative. The lower owned you're projected to be, you'd get a little bit of a boost, and it would spit out a final number. That's the long story. Then I took those numbers and threw it into this optimizer, and this is what came out. So if you're listening, I'll explain what you're looking at. If you're watching on the video, you know what you're looking at. I just spit out 3 lineups here. I can do 20, I can do 150, I can do 1, I can do whatever. And it is now summing that metric, that like score that I created. It is now summing what's the highest total score for a 6-player lineup that I can create under $50,000, which makes complete sense when you look at some of these names. So here is the quote-unquote optimal lineup using this method. Brooks Koepka, Adam Svensson, Charlie Hoffman, Sung Kang, Bud Cauley, and Troy Merritt. And if you can think logically about what we have calculated, it kind of makes sense that these players are here. Koepka's going to show up. So there's a lot of ways you can score well here. You can score well in my system if you're just a great tee to green player. Like if you're so good tee to green, even if you're an okay putter, you're so good tee to green, you get a big boost here. Also, especially if you're projected to kind of be like on the lower owned side of things. Or you can be someone who is just so good tee to green and so bad putting compared to their baseline. So when you look at some of these names, this makes sense. Charlie Hoff. Okay, let's start. Sung Kang, actually. Sung Kang has one of the biggest negative differentials on strokes gained putting right now. His, talked about him last week. I played him last week in this exact contest. Talked about him last week. I think I talked about him on the DFS video again this week. He is so far below his strokes gained putting baseline right now. It's almost comical. So the idea is he is able to rebound and get back in this. So his score is very high there. And also, he's also projected to be pretty low owned. So you'll see that's why his score, so to speak, is 214 when Brooks Koepka scores 143, for example. Charlie Hoffman, same thing. His putting just hasn't been that good. So these are the players that have pumped out. So I like to optimize 3 just to kind of see which of the players are coming in and coming out of it. In like the second lineup, Richie Werenski comes into it. In the third lineup, it just what does the third lineup do? Gets rid of Troy Merritt, and it's Werenski and Cauley. So the second lineup gets rid of Cauley, puts Werenski in it. The third lineup gets rid of Merritt and puts Werenski and Cauley back into it. So that is what I've done. So this week, so the way this looks on DraftKings is as follows. You're looking at it right now. 2 guys in the $6,000 range, 3 guys in the $7,000 range, and then Brooks Koepka at 11.9. And I left $2,300 on the table. This is a topic that needs a lot more discussion. It is a topic that we need to figure out what that correct score, what a good scoring system would be. It might not be tee to green. It might not be putting. It might not be ownership. It might not be any of those. It might be something completely different. But we're going to find out. So this is where I'm going to play this lineup. It's in. I'm rolling with it. But this is where I want to hear from you, because I'm going to make another video and we're going to have to talk through all this whole thing. Let me know what you think would be included. Let me know if you like this, or let me know if you hate it. Tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand, or leave a comment below. Talk to you guys soon. See ya.